But you wait till the very last minute. And I told you, Skip, you can't wait till everybody else starts setting the market and expect Dak to come in like, oh, yeah, that's a good deal right now. No. Those guys got 3-4 years left on their deal, and they're getting $34-35 million. So Dak says, hold on, I got no years left. I need more than that. I just don't get the Cowboys, what they're thinking is, Skip. That's what's befuddling to me, is that we find ourselves, well, I find myself talking about it, but they find themselves in the very predicament, Skip, they were in a year ago. Is that, okay, here's the tag. I mean, if they're going to tag him, they're going to give him a long-term deal. At this point, you know what Dak is asking for. Either you go to like, well, Dak, this is where we can go or we can't. And I believe they're saying, Dak, they know what Dak wants, because Jane Slater mentions in her article, Skip, it was right up under Patrick Mahomes, 44 million. We know Patrick Mahomes got 45 million. So there's a general indication of where Dak is kind of heading. I don't believe they're going to get anything done. They're going to put the tag on him. And guess what? It's going to be a long, drawn-out process again. And you and I going to come in here and you're going to talk about it, and you're going to throw your hands up in there and says, I don't know what my Cowboys are doing, because they had a whole year, actually had a year and a half to figure this out. And for some reason, they still haven't got it figured out yet.
Okay. To answer Jenny's question, I'm still holding out hope that this is a good sign, that maybe they're actually negotiating. And Todd Archer of ESPN has reported that, according to multiple sources, they have had talks recently. Right. And the talks have been, quote, good and, quote, positive. Okay. So what's happening?
Oh, let's get... Man, what you do this weekend? Man, I had a good time. Is everything okay? How's the family? Yeah. Family's good. Yeah. Are we talking long-term deal?
Or not.
Exactly.
Okay, so the clock ticks toward what you could say is kind of a phony deadline, because all you have to do is place the hold on him with, like you said, a tag you're it deal. It's like, okay, we are required by NFL rules. Right. We have to do this by 4 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow.
Correct.
You can continue to negotiate past that. Right. But it is kind of an artificial deadline that could make you both come to the table and say, this is dragging on too long. Right. Let's compromise. So I am hoping against hope that at 3 Eastern tomorrow, they announce a big long-term deal. 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Now, some people are speculating Dak will only want 3 years, because last year he wanted only 4 years. So is it down to just a 3-year deal?
It's shorter. Pretty soon, Dak only want a 2-year deal.
We're heading in that direction. I don't think that any deal is going to get announced. I think you're right that they will place yet another, this would be the second tag on him, at $37.7 million. But there is no way they will place a third on him a year from now, which would be $54 million. They're not going to do that. Because
that's, Skip, remember now, it's being reported that's what he wants the final year of his deal to be anyway. Okay. Is that he wants, 40 this, 40 this, 40 this, and then last year 50 plus.
Okay, I got it. My gut is he's on his way out of town, that he's about to play on a final year's deal. Yeah. And it's good money, man. That's 37.7. That'll work. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You can't feel cheated by that deal,
and no state tax.
No.
But, Skip, don't you feel like at this point, everybody is dug in and nobody wants to budge? It's like we're playing tug of war, and both sides are just like, we're exhausted, and can't nobody gain and look like what it seems to be an advantage.
Yes, I believe that happened. But you failed to note that back in September of 2019, this is going back a ways now. Right. Jerry Jones said after game number 1 at Jerry World, a win over then the woeful New York Football Giants. Right. He said a deal with Dak was
imminent.
Imminent. Yeah. And somebody said, imminent meaning what? And he said, hours, days. Yeah. He was talking about hours or days. Okay, that's imminent, because he had just gotten Zeke to come home from Cabo to sign the biggest deal any running back in football had at the time. So Zeke was back in the fold. We thought a happy camper, wasn't going to quite live up to the deal. But Dak, we thought, was about to follow him in line and get a big new deal that would be worthy of how he had performed so far. Right. Well, guess what happened? He had a new agent named Todd France. And Todd France said, man, you played really well. Let's maybe wait a couple of weeks and see how you play next week at Washington. And he played great at Washington. Let's see one more week. Let's see how you play against Miami. Then they were the pits, man. They were the worst team in the league at that point.
They were tanking for 2 at that point in time.
They were tanking for 2. And they tanked for Dak, too, because Dak lit them up.
Yes.
So he had 3 weeks of the best football any quarterback had played against what you dismissed as garbage competition, right? But 3 weeks of that he had. And his agent is saying, wait a second, we didn't ask for enough money. Well, Jerry thought you had agreed on the money.
Right.
He thought you had a verbal handshake, kind of the way they do it in Texas and Arkansas, your word is your bond.
Right.
He thought you had that kind of deal, Todd, and you didn't.
You did not.
You jerked that old proverbial negotiating rug out from under a guy who doesn't want that rug jerked out from under him by anybody. And once you do that to him, it is hard to get him back to the table. Because he thought you had something that you agreed on and you didn't agree. So then everybody kept saying, well, Dak is betting on himself the rest of the year. And what happened over the last 13 games? He did not live up to my lofty expectations for Dak's performance. He had a bunch of bad games. You gave him Fs for 7 out of those 13 games. And I thought he bet on himself and lost, at least in Jerry's eyes, because Jerry's saying, I'm supposed to give that money to that kid?
Right. But here's the thing, Skip. Remember, we're going to talk about options and choices. What are his options? And then I can tell you Jerry's choices. He has no options at this. Okay, you can go back with Andy Dalton. You can go back with Garrett Gilbert. You can go back with Ben Anthony DiNucci. So, Skip, options and choices. What are his options? Then I can tell you his choices.
Unless we have another, you could say artificial deadline, but it is looming for April 29th. What happens on that evening? The National Football League draft. Okay? So is it possible that Dallas, sitting with the 10th overall pick, says, you know what? We're doomed. We'll never get to any kind of compromise with Dak and his agent. They just want more money than we're willing to pay. Is it possible they either trade up, or is it possible they sit at 10 and one of those top 4 quarterbacks, you never know, might fall to you at 10? And I don't know which one they would fall in love with. Would Trey Lance fall to 10th? I have no idea.
I mean, look at Mel Kiper. The quarterbacks might go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
They could. They well could. Is there another one out there laying in the weeds, another Dak Prescott that they have targeted and identified and said, that's our quarterback? I don't know. But it's possible they would say, we're going to draft a quarterback and we will have 1 year to allow him to learn under Dak, and then we're just going to have to let Dak go.
Skip, I would hope they wouldn't do that to Dak, because you've done that to him already, because you don't believe he's worth it. The only way you can get the true value of something is just, Skip, like an auction. Well, I don't think that thing is worth that. I mean, when they bring these Tom Brady just had a car go for $1.4 million. Now, I'm sure somebody, man, that car ain't worth that. He said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take it to auction. I'm going to take it to Sotheby's. I'm going to take it to Christie's, and I'm going to let people bid on it. And then whatever the market bears, that's what it's worth. Well, $1.4 million later, or the Luka Doncic. Skip, did you think anybody think Luka Doncic's car was going to get $4.6 million?
No, I'm lost on that one.
Well, people start bidding, and the next thing you know, and that's how free agency works, Skip. You're like, man, Dak ain't worth no $41 million. But then all of a sudden, somebody's like, hold on. We don't have a quarterback. We hadn't had a quarterback in a very long time. Dak, what is it going to take to get you to sign with us? If they just said this is going to take you 4 years, $180 million, and I'm going to need $90 million at the time of signing. Well, Dak got that. Like JJ, Skip, people are still talking about it. How the hell did he get $14 million when he's played 38 of a possible 80 games over the last 5 years? How the hell did he get that kind of money? Well, he hit the market, and somebody bid for it. I don't know who they were bidding against, but Arizona bidded for it.
It happens.
Exactly. So that's what Dak is wanting. It's easy to say it's not worth that when you don't have nothing else to value it against.
It's like once upon a time. Remember, Alex Rodriguez went to the Texas Rangers for $252 million? It was like light years beyond anything.
They have $100 million more than anybody else ever got.
And I did a lot of homework on that, and I know a lot of people who did a lot of homework. They were just betting against themselves. What are you doing? Well, all it takes is one. And if you want it for marquee value, we want to sign A-Rod, and because we haven't had anything quite like A-Rod in Dallas-Fort Worth,
And the same thing a couple of years later when it was the Yankees. They gave a raise of $275. Hey, what nobody, they had just saw what the Rangers did. 3 years, okay, you finished in last place. So I just think the thing with Dak is, Skip, It just appears to me from the outside looking in.
Yep.
Everybody has a number in mind. Jerry has a number in mind in which he wants to pay for something. Dak has a number in mind which he's willing to accept for something.
Yep.
And they haven't met. That's the problem. It doesn't seem like they're close.